Commissioner Aker,
Here.
Commissioner Morris, Commissioner Morris.
I'm here.
Okay. Commissioner McElhern,
Here.
Commissioner Jensen, Commissioner
I don't see him on. I don't see Commissioner Jensen on the participant list. So if he
Commissioners, Commissioner Morris or Jensen was just promoted.
Awesome.
So if you'd like to call his name again.
Okay. Commissioner Morris,
Yes, I'm here.
Commissioner Jensen, Commissioner Baldwin,
Present.
and alternate Commissioner Hogg.
Present.
Thank you. Welcome to the Independent Redistricting Commission meeting. Public outreach regarding redistricting and this commission, as well as information on all IRC meetings, has been noticed to the public in many venues. They include a public notice was published in the Santa Clara Weekly on October 14th, 2021, listing all meeting dates. The city's website has a page dedicated to the Independent Redistricting Commission, which outlines the redistricting process, lists all meeting dates, and also provides information on how to request translation services if needed. The website also has flyers translated into the following languages in addition to English: Chinese, Spanish, and Vietnamese. There is an email address dedicated for inquiries and comments on the redistricting process. It is redistricting@santaclaraca.gov. This email address will also be monitored during meetings for comments. Flyers have been provided at all public counters at City Hall and were distributed at city-wide events: the Halloween party at the Youth Activity Center on October 30th, and the tree lighting ceremony on December 3rd. Meeting information has also been sent out and will continue to be sent during this process via social media: Facebook, Twitter, Nextdoor, and Instagram. Meeting agendas are posted to the city's meeting page in advance of the meeting, and previous IRC meetings and presentations are available on the city's meeting page, www.santaclara.legistar.com. Consent calendar. We have 2 items on the consent calendar. Number 1, Independent Redistricting Commission meeting minutes of September 23rd, 2021 meeting, and Independent Redistricting Commission meeting minutes of October 23rd, 2021 meeting. Do I have a motion and a second to approve these items?
Move to approve.
I move that we accept the commission meeting minutes.
And I second the motion.
Thank you. Staff, will you please call the vote via roll call?
Sure. So the motion is from Commissioner McElhern, seconded by Commissioner Morris. Is that correct?
Yes.
To approve the consent calendar. Chair Marashi?
Yeah, approve.
Sorry, was a second from Commissioner Morris or Baldwin?
I think it was myself that did it.
Oh, okay. That's why I asked. So it was seconded by Commissioner Baldwin. Thank you very much. Chair Marashi was yes. Commissioner Aker?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Morris?
Yes.
Commissioner McElhern?
Yes.
Commissioner Jensen?
Yes.
Vice Chair Agarwal?
Yes.
Commissioner Baldwin.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes.
Thank you. We now move to the public presentation section of our meeting. This part of the meeting is reserved for persons to address the council or authorities on any matter not on the agenda that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city or authorities. The law does not permit action on or extended discussion of any item not on the agenda except under special circumstances. The governing body or staff may briefly respond to statements made or questions posted. An appropriate body may request staff to report back at a subsequent meeting. As a reminder, comments can be emailed to redistricting@santaclaraca.gov. If any member of the public would like to make comments, please raise your hand in Zoom. Staff, do we have any members of the public that would like to speak?
We do have one member of the public, Diane Harrison. I will promote her to speak.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
I just have a kind of a quick question. I was under the impression that we were going to be looking at maps that had been drawn and present, and that by members of the public as well as yourselves. But I was looking at the agenda and it seems to indicate that that won't be done until January. So I'm just wondering about the ones that have already been submitted. Will they be talked about tonight or not till January? That's my question. Thank you.
I think it is tonight. The maps will be talked at a subsequent meeting. Hossam, can you confirm?
Yeah, I think because this is a public hearing, Diane and any member of the public, if you have some maps that you would like to propose or bring forward to the commission, you're certainly more than welcome to do so. This is a public hearing. The agenda today will cover some items that Vice Chair will walk us through about using some of the tools that are available. Of course, there were some tools that were shared last meeting, but there are some additional tools that will be discussed today and presentation on how to use some of those tools. So certainly, members of the public may want to use those new tools to develop some maps and present them in subsequent meetings. But this is a public hearing, so all public comment and input is welcome. So certainly, I would encourage you, Diane, and others in the public who may have some ideas and recommendations and maps to offer to please bring that forward.
Okay, I have already submitted a couple maps, so that's why I thought there'd be like not only mine, but like a whole bunch of others. But I guess
yeah. So everything that's been submitted has been shared to the commission, and it's also included in the meeting or agenda packet. So okay. that is available.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Diane. Okay, now we will now move to the general business items on the agenda. We have presentations and discussion. The items are, why does redistricting matter? We will talk about population balancing. There is a tutorial on drawing a plan using PCS tool. There is an overview of Maptitude online redistricting tool, also called MORE. Next is redistricting schedule and next steps of presentation of draft maps in January. We will discuss correspondence received till now. And finally, the last item is discussion on the next meeting, hybrid or virtual meeting for January 13th, 2022. Okay, our first item is, why does redistricting matter? City Clerk Hossam, can you please provide presentation or speak on this?
There we go. Yes, certainly. I don't have any slides, but I in some conversations with Chair Marashi since the last meeting, we basically, there has been some questions or comments or general sentiment from the public to help them all understand, to help everybody understand kind of like very basic questions. Why does redistricting matter, right? And Chair Marashi had solicited some questions, general questions from members in the public, in her conversations with the community, that really all revolve around that fundamental question, like, why should I care? Like, there's this whole effort that we're doing as a commission, not just for Santa Clara, but there's also redistricting that's happening nationwide, right, within all the different jurisdictions because of the 2020 census results. And so let me just list out several of the questions that were posed to me, and I will, rather than address them one by one, I'll just speak in general terms, and then I'll try to keep it brief. And then if there are follow-up questions or clarifications, we can definitely have that discussion. So the questions that were shared with me is, why is it important that each district has an equal or somewhat same population, even when not everyone is eligible to vote? How does redistricting affect a resident's daily life? How does redistricting affect city elections? Who is the most and least affected in redistricting? So in general, right, we don't have to go through over every question one by one. The concept of ensuring that that redistricting happens is to ensure that each district size is roughly equal to each other. And this helps to ensure that there is fair and equal and balanced representation within the city. So if I were to take an extreme, and this will help maybe paint the picture a little bit, if we were to not ensure that there was an equal balance in terms of population for each district, then on an extreme level, you could say, all right, let's make District 1 just 5 residents, and we'll make District 2 100,000 residents, and District 3 1,000 residents. Then certainly, if you're electing one council member to represent each district, whoever came from District 1 was only elected by 5 residents, versus District 2, which was 100,000 residents, and District 3 was 1,000 residents. So it certainly isn't fair or balanced in terms of the representation on a city council, right? One council member is representing 5 residents, another council member is representing 1,000, and then the third is representing 100,000. So that's certainly not fair representation for the residents of the city, even if they are ineligible to vote, or even if they are eligible to vote and choose not to vote, to choose not to participate in an election. And so when you look at distribution or equality and balance of council district sizes, you don't look at who is registered to vote or who is eligible to vote. You look at the entire residents, like the count of residents within the city, because even if you're not a citizen or you're not eligible to vote, right? Just being a citizen is not the only requirement to vote. You have to be over 18, right? So just being eligible to vote is not the criteria that you use to ensure balanced representation on your council, because everybody lives in the city. Every resident lives in the city, whether you're registered to vote or not. And even if you are registered to vote, whether you choose to vote or not. And so the council's decisions, whether they make for land use or planning, or how we spend the city's budget, all of that affects every resident, not just those who vote in elections. So when you look at, some of the other questions, like how does redistricting affect city elections and how does it affect a resident's daily life? Redistricting is the foundational element as to how cities elect their representatives, how cities elect their council members. And from there, the council provides direction to the city manager in how to run the city. So we are in our form of manager government here, in our form of city government here in Santa Clara, we have a council and manager system, right? Where the manager runs as like the CEO of the city, but the board of advisors or the board of directors is the council. They are directing the city manager on the direction, and of course, who picks that council? It's the residents or the voters within the city. So who is the most and least affected in redistricting? I think everybody is affected by redistricting in the outcome of how you are able to elect and select your representatives, even if you are not a voter. So even if you're not a voter, you can ask your neighbors to vote. You can support a candidate's campaign by walking for them, speaking to neighbors, helping them pass out flyers. So everybody is affected by redistricting, and because it's the census counts are only done once every 10 years, that is, once we get the results from that census count, it's important to rebalance the city to make sure that we do have equal representation from each council district and each council member. So I think that pretty much covers the general questions. I will stop here, but if there's any other questions or follow-up from any of the commissioners, from maybe some of the feedback that you're hearing from the community as you're chatting with them and learning from them about what matters to them, I'm happy to answer that. There was one logistical question about that is unrelated to redistricting, but definitely affects this commission, and that was, why are city meetings not time bound? Scientifically, it has been proven that people become less productive after 50 to 60 minutes without a break. Most of city meetings are longer than this time frame. And I would like to say amen to that. But the reality is that as a public agency, and this is kind of the mantra that as commissioners you should all have, we're here to serve the public, right? And part of that is that we do all of the public's business in open, right? There are no backdoor conversations. There are no deals that are made amongst commissioners before a meeting happens. And that's why, all the training that everybody received on the Brown Act is super important. And as part of us all being, representing a public agency and doing work for the public, these meetings are designed to take the input from the public, respond to the public, no matter if you agree with their concern or point of view or not, but it is a public meeting. And so with that comes the possibility that the meeting will run over, right? If there's a lot of public input, then that just comes with the territory. The chair does have the discretion to limit the time that members of the public have to speak, but they cannot deny the members of the public to speak. So as long as it's done fairly and equally, that if it is up to the discretion of the chair or the vice chair, whoever's running the meeting, that they want to limit public comments to 3 minutes a person or 2 minutes a person, which are typically the standards in large meetings, then that's applied equally and fairly across the board, but we could not limit the public from providing their input. So that is just the nature. So I'll stop talking here because I've taken too long. And then if there are any questions from the commissioners, I'm happy to address it. And I know we definitely have folks from the city. We have Liz from the attorney's office and Rena here as well, who can help answer some of those basic questions.
Thanks, Hossam. Commissioners, are there any comments or questions from you?
I have a quick comment here that I want to mention this in the public meeting, that irrespective of people's voting status, everyone is welcome in these meetings to give their input. Even though you are not voting, that does not mean you cannot contribute. So it is probably fair, even if the redistributing happens without considering the voting population. Yeah, that's about it.
Vice Chair Agarwal, I have a PowerPoint that will go through more of this, and I'll go through it quickly since Mr. Hagag has already covered a lot of it, but I think we should just go through it quickly, and I can start the PowerPoint anytime you're ready.
I think, okay, first, is there any comment from the public? Anybody from?
I don't see any hands raised.
Okay,
Vice
thank
Chair.
you. Then let's go through the presentation. I think it's related, so it will be good to have it now. Gene, thanks.
Yes. Well, your city clerk has covered a lot of this. He talked about reasons for redistricting, and he touched on legal requirements. I will go through all of this material, which you've seen before, the brief overview. I will make it brief, and you can, of course, ask questions if you don't remember how to interpret something or just don't understand something. Then after that, we have a comparison for you of our pieces kit and Maptitude online redistricting. And then Shelley and Robin will demonstrate how to use the pieces tool and the Maptitude online tool. So that's our agenda. So quick, here we go. So every 10 years, as Hassam said, every jurisdiction that elects by individual election district needs to check to see if the populations are still almost equal in each election district. And we do have to follow laws. Your deadline for finishing the city's deadline for finishing redistricting is middle of next April. So there is quite a bit of time remaining. The new council districts will be in effect for 10 years, as Osam said, and incumbents will serve out their terms of office even if the new plan doesn't leave them in the district they were elected to represent. We follow legal guidelines. The population equality requirement is the most important one, and then Voting Rights Act and other federal laws. And the California Fair Maps Act applies to cities as well as counties. And there are many pieces of this act or these acts. The current council district plan on the right has a population deviation of 14.4%, and presumably 10% is the maximum allowed. And you can see that District 6 is larger than the ones in red, and District 6 is also large. So plans will need to move people out of these two districts that are too large into the districts that are not so large. The Federal Voting Rights Act, I think I will skip that now because I believe you've heard this before. Do you remember? Well, we can't base map drawing on, well, we can't draw maps that discriminate against members of protected groups protected under the Federal Voting Rights Act. And these are protected groups. Essentially everyone except non-Hispanic whites are protected under the Federal Voting Rights Act. And we demographers know exactly what that entails. And we will tell you if there are any issues connected with any map. We do not show things that are obviously discriminatory. Now the new laws, Fair Maps Act applies to cities and counties, and there's great emphasis on getting the members, the residents of the jurisdiction to participate in the redistricting process. So the city will need to maintain its redistricting website for 10 years. So it'll be handy as a basis for the next redistricting website starting in 2031. And you need to provide translation services if requested. And there need to be multiple ways for members of the public to provide testimony and feedback. And there needs to be public access to the mapping data and software. The Fair Maps Act also requires that the city, the IRC, hold at least 4 public hearings. And we have not started drafting maps yet. Your next meeting, as was said earlier, we will start showing a demonstration map and any map submitted by members of the public. And you need to have at least one meeting in the evening or on a weekend. And there has to be time certain start for each meeting. And there has to be notice for public hearings, and each of your meetings is a public hearing. These are the criteria that the Fair Maps Act lists in order of priority that should be used during plan drawing. And the Federal Voting Rights Act is the population equality, federal law is Population Equality and Voting Rights Act. And the council districts need to be in one piece, not separate pieces. And there needs to be a lot of attention paid to communities of interest. And these are not necessarily race ethnic groups. They could be socioeconomic groups and groups of people who have specific needs that the city council would customarily address. And we need to worry about number 4. Understandable, identifiable boundaries are really important. It's not good to have jagged boundaries. It's better to follow major streets to the extent possible, things that members of the public can recognize. And there needs to be compactness. We shouldn't have any string bean shaped districts. And we are not supposed to consider incumbency or even possible future candidacy. Now, communities of interest include recognized neighborhoods, areas with similar living standards, and these are kinds of areas that have similar socioeconomic characteristics. Now, here are the current council districts with next door neighborhoods shaded, and to some extent, these might or might not be communities of interest. There are also specific parts of the city with plan that are subject to planning efforts, special planning efforts by the city, and these areas might be communities of interest. We shouldn't split between council districts. There are always trade-offs when we redistrict. We will point out trade-offs to you as we go along. When we talk about plans, we will mention trade-offs. If you want to have this, you might have to sacrifice some other considerations. Or if you have this, this might have the consequence that you can or cannot do something else. And here's the timeline. I'm not sure it's the current one, but we're now on the 3rd row. Next meeting is January 13th. I'm sure you've seen this. And we're asking you and members of the public, what is your community of interest? And there's an appendix to this PowerPoint, but I'm not going to go through that. And I will instead share the table that shows lost it. I'll have to.
Okay. So while you look for it, let me just sorry, go ahead. Jean, you have.
Well, I don't have it ready to show you. I thought I did.
Yeah. I just wanted to set the context that this was item number 2 that we were talking about. I did not set that in place. So this was item number 2 on our agenda, that is population balancing. And
thank you. Then what we have to say next is premature. So I will.
Yeah, we'll come to the tools later as part of agenda items.
Yes.
Thanks. Okay, thanks for the presentation. Commissioners, any comments? Questions or comments? I think we have seen this earlier. So any comments from the public?
Can I ask one question?
Vice Chair? Sorry, Commissioner Jensen has a question.
Go ahead.
This is one of those things where I get it, and then I think about it more, and then I don't get it. And then I think about it more, and then I get it, and then you present on it again, and I get it again, and then something else happens, and I don't get it. And that point is this percent tolerance. And one of the things you said today is we need to move some folks out of District 6. And my understanding of that percent calculation is it's the difference between the maximum percentage and then the minimum percentage. Is that correct? And so is moving people out, or into those in between the range of those percentages, not to reduce this to a mathematical exercise, because it's certainly much more than a mathematical equation. It's people and places. But my question is about that error, that percent tolerance that you're talking about in the calculation.
Yes, that's a really good question, and it is confusing to most people. For the table I showed you of the current plan with the red numbers for underpopulated council districts and the black ones with overpopulated council districts, showed both the individual council district deviations and the total plan deviation. Now, the individual council district deviations are the difference between the ideal council district population, which is 1/6 of the city's total population, and the current population divided by that ideal population, 1/6 of the city's total. And those were the numbers in the column that had red figures in it. At the bottom right of the table, there is an overall plan deviation, which is the difference between most and least populated council districts. At the top of the range, we have a deviation that's positive, strongly positive, like we had in the 2 districts that I pointed out. The range is the plan needs to be below 10%. Thank you for the total plan deviation, and this 14.4% is higher than 10%, which the courts have generally ruled as a maximum. So this is really not statistics. It's just a numerical way of judging how equal in population the election districts are. So we will be reviewing this over and over again, because members of the
Commissioner, just to add to that, the 14.4 comes, I think that it's a sum of the highest variance negative and the biggest positive variance. And you add both of them, and that's what this comes to.
It's the absolute value.
Absolute values of those two.
Yes.
And can I just add, there are two, maybe it's a little confusing because there are 2 ways you can calculate the deviation. One is from this column where you just take the lowest deviation and the highest deviation, and you add the absolute values. So that would give you 14.4%, the 7.6 and the 6.8. So that's one way to do it. But another way to do it is to go over to this column and see the least populous district has 629 people short. The most populous district has an extra 1443. The difference between those two is this 3,072. And if we take this 3,072 and divide it by the ideal population, that will also give you that 14.4%. So there are different ways to calculate this 14.4%.
Thank you for that. And so the clarification then is, and I'm not suggesting that this is what should be a solution, but technically we would not have to touch 3, 4, 5, or 6 to satisfy this requirement, right? I'm not suggesting that that won't happen or that we shouldn't do that. That's not the right answer. But in theory, the way that this percent deviation is calculated, it would primarily be between 1 and 2 that would satisfy.
Well, you also have District 6, which has 1,077 more people in it than ideal. So it isn't just a matter of moving people out of 2 into 1, which would be simple since they're proximate, but there needs to be overall reduction in numbers so that each of those numbers is as close to 0 as possible within reason. There can be 10% range between most and least, but it unless all the other council districts were almost 0 deviation, you couldn't balance the plan to probably what would be an acceptable limit just by changing population between 1 and 2.
Well, actually, Jean, if like Commissioner Jensen said, he wasn't suggesting this, but theoretically, if all that moved was districts 1 and 2 and that became equalized, then the deviation would be 8.5. This 3.4 would be the smallest district, and then 5.1 would be the largest. And then that overall would be 8.5.
Shelley's
So
right.
just to understand how it works. But in practice, usually lots of things move. And there's a bit of a domino effect.
Okay, I get it now. Thank you for, thank you. That was important for me to understand.
Wouldn't there
you.
be a value though in keeping the other, to the extent practical, keeping all the districts population so we don't annoy the voters? If we can meet that 10% by just shifting between 1 and 2, is there a downsize by keeping 6 within the boundaries, you know, within the percentage, but still higher than the others? I mean, the advantage would be you annoy less voters by just shifting some folks between 1 and 2. I mean, is there a plus there?
One of the first plans we'll show you will be such a minimum change plan. And after you see that, you can probably get a better idea of what you do and don't like, and you can take it from there. So it's perfectly acceptable to just do the minimum amount of population shifting. And many people like that. But it's certainly not the only way to draw plans. Another.
Jean, do you want to talk about the not disenfranchising voters?
Yes. If you shift large numbers of people from one council district to another, there are 2 things that can happen. One is people get confused about who their council member is because they're used to voting for somebody or a particular council seat, and all of a sudden they have to figure out who's the counselor for the new district they live in. And sometimes the election cycles can get disrupted if you move people from one council district to another, and the one that they start off in is due for election in 2 years, and the one they move them to is 4 years. These people are going to have to wait longer to vote, and there'll be others that can vote again in just 2 years.
So to make sure I got this right, then what you're saying isn't part of our 7 criteria, but ideally what we want to do is minimize the amount of shifting around of people. So like you say, we don't either partially disenfranchise somebody who doesn't get a chance to vote or just needlessly causes disruption.
Well, you commissioners need to decide if this is something you want to do, because you might or might not agree that this is one of your objectives. So you need to decide and discuss among you what your highest priorities are. Of course, obeying the law comes first, but there are lots of options, different ways to interpret the laws and to implement plans that meet the legal criteria, but still are very different.
Okay, if there are any other questions from any other commissioners, otherwise we'll move to public comments.
But someone will be disrupted in all of this, no matter what.
It's just a question of how many people.
Yes. Okay.
We don't have any hands raised from the public, nor do we have any emails that have been received as of right now.
Okay, so then we will close out agenda item number 2 as complete, and we'll move to item number 3. The third item is tutorial of drawing of plan using pieces tool. Goblet and Lapkoff, sorry. Will you please provide your presentation?
Dr. Goebel, I think you're muted.
That's okay. Shelley is showing the table that I thought we should show next. So do you want to talk about this, Shelley, or shall I?
Why don't you? That's all
Okay.
right. I just showed it.
Okay, thank you very much. You read my mind. So we're going to tell you about two different ways members of the public and you commissioners can draw plans. There are two approaches. One is the pieces approach, which we've already described to you, and we will demonstrate to you. And the other is an optional online redistricting tool, which is kind of expensive. It does require some perhaps unbudgeted expenditure, but I want to go through the characteristics to help you get a better idea if you want to request that the city purchase this more. It's called Maptitude Online Redistricting. So the first column is the characteristic that's discussed to the right. And the second column is the pieces kit, and the third column is the online redistricting tool. So how is the tool used? Pieces, Excel, or paper, and in combination with a PDF map. The online redistricting tool is web-based, everything online. Pieces is much easier to use than the online redistricting tool, but it has a much lesser capability. It does not allow nearly as much flexibility or taking into account different factors. So that's the ease of use is connected with its perhaps limited capacity. And the online tool requires more time to learn, and Robin will demonstrate this for you later. And there are lots of options with the online tool. Now, I've been saying that Santa Clara is a city of many highly technical people, engineers, and people who are very familiar with computers. So I don't think the online redistricting tool would be as difficult for your average resident as it is in some communities. The pieces kit can be used manually with just a printout of the populations of each of the now 47 pieces and the PDF map to go with it. But the Excel file has an automatic calculator in it. The more tool is web-based, easier to learn, and it does all of these calculations automatically as well. And you can see as you go how the numbers change. The building blocks for pieces plans, pieces-based plans, are the 47 pieces that we have now, and we've added pieces in response to requests and suggestions from members of the public. The populations of the pieces range from 0 to 14,773 people. And the reason there are 0 population pieces is there are large areas of the city that are not populated, but you have to put them in a plan to connect all parts of the city or represent all parts of the city in a plan. The online tool has 1,997 census blocks, the building blocks used in the online tool, with populations ranging from 0 to 1,703. And the average populations, mean populations of the pieces and the blocks are very different. So you can see one reason the online tool is more complex is that you can do many more micro exchanges of territory, and pieces you're limited to these fairly large territories. The amount of detail that is possible when drawing plans is of course limited when you're using pieces. The most populous pieces though were designed originally because these areas had to stay together. You couldn't split them because there wouldn't be any other council district nearby to assign them to. And the online tool gives you almost unlimited detail if you want to move around these individual blocks. The detail amount in pieces in a way is good because the piece boundaries are easily recognized in most cases. They mostly follow street center lines. And the census blocks sometimes don't. Census blocks aren't just rectangular city blocks. They are often very odd shaped. So it is much harder to understand a plan that's solely based on just moving blocks around without considering whether the boundaries are recognizable. We demographers will verify and analyze all the plans that are submitted and report back to you. The evaluation process that we go through will take at least about 2 days to complete. So if somebody submits a plan 6 hours before one of your meetings, we won't have time, most likely we won't have time to analyze it in time for the meeting. The registrar of voters probably would have less work to do to implement the new plan using pieces, much less adjustment needed for pieces than for the census block-based online tool building blocks. And then finally, the ordinance passed by the City Council to adopt a redistricting plan should contain language that allows the registrar of voters to make technical adjustments that involve little, if any, population when they adjust their voting precincts and polling places. So that specific language needs to be in the ordinance the council ultimately adopts. So I will be having to leave quite shortly for another meeting. So do you think that the commissioners want to ask questions now, or do you want to wait until after you see the demonstrations? I kind of think you might want to wait because some of the questions will be answered as you see these tools demonstrated.
Commissioners? Anybody would want to ask questions now or wait? I think.
I'll wait.
Vice Chair Agrawal, if I can just make one clarification for the commissioners. So we have the pieces process, right? The question that's really in front of the commission is whether we want to purchase another tool. So there would be 2 tools available for the public. So I just want to clarify, the end question will be for the commission if we should invest in this additional tool. And thank you, Dr. Gobele. Vice Chair, if you think it's appropriate for her to demonstrate the tool, then feel free.
Okay, so our agenda item was the pieces tool demonstration. So I think, yeah, so let's go through the demonstration. I think we have done the demonstration earlier. So do we need to do that again, commissioners?
It's going to be much clearer, I think, the way we have planned to do it tonight.
Okay, so
we kind of rushed through it before, and we've revised the pieces tool a bit since you last saw it. And Shelley's going to be the one to demonstrate pieces.
Okay, I think then let's go with the demonstration.
Yeah, if I may, real quick, Vice Chair Agrawal. So on the agenda, you have tutorial of drawing of plan using pieces tool, and the next item is the overview of the Maptitude online redistricting tool. Both of these are being discussed right now. So like it's both being discussed so that you can compare them side by side and make a determination as a commission later in the meeting, once you've seen both tools, whether or not as a commission you want to decide to have the city purchase the license to use the Maptitude tool, the More tool. So right now the Pieces tool is available. It is what's on the redistricting website. The community has already used it and provided some feedback, which is later in the agenda today. But we have seen some feedback that and you'll see this in your correspondence as well, that maybe the Pieces tool doesn't have the granularity that community members may want to see to be able to draw their own maps. And although Dr. Gobele and Dr. Lapkoff have graciously offered that, hey, any feedback that the community wants in terms of changing the piece sizes and stuff, as long as they're given sufficient enough heads up, they can accommodate that. Some people wanted to see another tool, right? So that's basically what this part of the demonstration here is to show this other option that's available, but it costs money, and Rena can talk about the cost later. And that would be a decision that the commission would make, which the city would then go and pay for. So just wanted to kind of help give that context and frame as you guys observe the demo for both tools and weigh the pros and cons. In either case, though, the pieces tool will be available, and I think Dr. Gobele and Dr. Lapkoff have already offered that they would continue to support that and make that available. It's just whether or not we want to add an additional tool that the community could use.
Thank you for the clarifications, Sam. Okay, commissioners, I think let's go through the demonstration.
Can I make one quick question here? San Jose and Sunnyvale both are using a tool that's similar to the Maptitude tool. Is it the same tool, or are they using another software system? Because it's the same system Sunnyvale looks like and San Jose are using. And I just wondered if the demographers knew which tool Sunnyvale and San Jose was using.
I don't know offhand, sorry.
Okay.
We could look later and see.
That's fine, because it had the same capabilities as Maptitude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know, what I'd like to do in demonstrating this is actually recreate Diane Harrison's plan. So she submitted a plan, and I thought it might be an interesting way to get to know her plan if we actually recreated it, because she created it on pieces. What I don't have capability of is to actually draw the map. Like once we go through the pieces and assign pieces to council districts, it would be cool if somebody had a printout of the pieces map. And I'm wondering if there's a volunteer in the audience that might have in front of them the pieces map, and if somebody could then draw which the council districts as I'm describing the pieces. So is that something you either need a heavy magic marker or you need some crowns close by so you can indicate the council districts some way? And I'm sorry, staff, we didn't mention this to you earlier because we could have had somebody, and I don't have a printer where I'm located, so it's been.
Dr. Gobele, is it, Lapkoff, is it you would like the district map printed out or the pieces map?
The pieces map. See this pieces maps that I have?
I have a hard copy.
Okay. Can you, do you
I
have
need to get some markers?
Yeah, get a marker. Or,
yeah, we'll get some markers.
Or a crown or something, so that when I indicate what piece, mark that so that we can see at the end, we'll have a map of her.
Okay.
Of hers. Yeah.
I'm glad this doesn't require any artistic skills.
No artistic skills. Okay. So we got that. So Diane submitted a map, and I have the pieces, and so I'm going to describe the pieces, and I'm going to go over to the calculator. Can everybody see the bottom of my screen here? There's the calculator. So here's the calculator. Already. See. So here's, when you get it, you want to, this yellow highlighting is where you're going to put the piece assignment. And when you do that, automatically there's going to be a calculation above to tell you what's going on. But at the moment, we have nothing filled in, so it's looks like a lot of errors. But we're going to fill this in and then we'll look at it.
Quick question,
So,
does it have the same number of set pieces earlier, or you have increased the number of pieces based on feedback?
We have more feedback, more pieces based on the feedback. There's 36B, so I think, can't remember if there are 47 pieces, something like that, because we had to split some of the pieces into A's and B's and C's and D's.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's go back to this pieces back, and I'll tell you what she has for District 1. She has.
Sorry, Dr. Lepko. This file is available on the redistricting website, even for folks who are watching the live stream and want to follow along on their own if they are at their computers. They go to the city's redistricting webpage, which is, I think it's linked on the homepage, Rena. They can download the pieces tool from the city website.
Correct.
Thank you. So on this Excel spreadsheet, you're going to have a pieces map. And if you don't have Excel, there's actually also just the PDF of this pieces map that you can download. And in Diane's plan, her council District 1 was equal to piece 5, piece 6A, and piece 11. So it goes like a semicircle, 5, 6A, and 11. So I'm going to go over to the calculator here, and on 5, I'm putting in a 1, and 6A, I'm putting in a 1, and 11. And I thought to myself when I was looking at it, gee, why didn't she put in 6B? Why did she skip that? Doesn't look like there are very many people on it. It seemed like it would be more compact. And so when I went up there to look at the population, she's at 21,875 in Council District 1, which is already a tad high, 2.7%. So 566 people. And if she had put in 6B, that had another 588 people. So that would have made it too high. So right there, you can see, oh, you wouldn't want to put 6B in there, even though geographically it might seem like it fit.
Dr. Lapkoff, should I draw like a line around 5 and 6A
and 11
and 11? And so just, like, I'll use one.
Like, so it's one big area. So either you could color code it one color if you had crowns. I think you have kids over there, but I don't know. But or if you just have a big thick magic
I'm at City Hall.
Okay. Right when you need your kids.
I don't think there are crayons at City Hall, but I might be wrong.
or anyway, so however you want to indicate 5, 6, 8, and 11 are like one area. So that's one council district for her. Now, District 2 is a little, has a lot of numbers, a lot of pieces. It's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And 7, 8, 9, and picks up that 6B. And then goes on this 10 and 10. And then this row 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. As well as down here 20 and 28B and 34, which is a little tiny guy here. So it stretches, it's a long district. It goes up from the north, comes down here, picks up 20, 28B, and 34. So I'm going to go over to the cap.
Can you repeat those districts again? Oh, when you're doing it, that's fine.
Yeah, okay. So piece 1, 2, 3, 4, 6B, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then we have 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 20. So go south, 20, 28B, and 34.
So
okay.
20 and then 28B and 34.
Yeah.
So not 21, 22, none of those.
No, 21, no, not any of those. So let's go back to the map. You can see, so it has this whole row and then it goes to the east here, 20, 28, and 34. see, where is that? 2028, I'm sorry, 28B, not 28A. It goes around 28A, B, and then 34. So it's a pretty sprawling district. Not a whole lot of people here, but it spans. And so we'll see that with the map. Okay, so that was District 2. District 3 is a lot more compact. It's just the 17s, 17A, C, B, and D, and 18A. So just this area right here. I'm sorry, I don't know, should be telling you the streets, but I can't see them at the moment. So we're gonna go up here and put in three for these guys. Okay. And now District 4. District 4 is 18B, this little slice here, 18B, 19, and then this row here, 21 through 24, 27, and 32. 32 is right here. So this row, 21 and 32 is here, and 27. Okay, so we're continuing to create this for District 4, 18B, 19, 21, 22A, 22B, 23, 24, and then 27 and 32. So one of the problems when we keep making pieces is sometimes the pieces get out of order geographically. Okay, so that was District 4. District 5 is going to take in 25A and B and 26. 30A, so it comes down here, 30A, 31, and 33, which is right next to 26. So again, it's 20, this area here, and then down to take in 30A and 31. 5, 5, 5, 5, 30A, 31, 33. Okay, so hopefully the rest is going to be 6. We're going to see that in a minute. 6 is 29, which is this here, 29, 30B, 35A and B, and 36A and B. So it's looking like this. Let's put that in the calculator and then we'll see if we made any mistakes. Here. There's a way you can check and see if everything looks right. Okay, so that I believe is her plan. And lo and behold, we now have everything filled in like we should. The 127,854 is here, 127,854. So we've assigned all the pieces. And here is the deviations, a total plan deviation of 6.9. And that comes because minus 4.3 on the low end and 2.7 on the high end. So that rounds to 7.0, but because of decimal points, I'm sure it's 6.9. Okay, And then you can have a few details here also in terms of the CVAPs by district. So for example, District 1 has a high Asian CVAP at 49%. Let's see, no strong Hispanic
Could you
CVAPs.
explain what the acronym is again? For everyone?
Yes, thank you. So CVAP is something that you'll get used to. It's citizens of voting age population. And the courts have said that this is the measure, the ideal measure to establish whether a group has the ability to elect representatives of their choice. So in this plan, Asians, the courts want to see 50% plus one person, but this is awfully darn close. It's 49%. So Asians, it might not stand up in a court of law, but for practical purposes, this means District 1 is strong. It's certainly stronger than the other districts in terms of Asians having the ability to elect representatives of their choice. So this is theoretically the people that are eligible to vote, citizens of voting age. Rena, I'd love to see your map, or do you have it ready?
Yeah, I do. We only had 3 colors. Would have been nice to have 6, but could you just confirm the parcels for District 3?
Yes, all the 17s.
Yep.
And 18A.
Yep. Okay, I think I did this right.
Okay, so how do we share that? Should I just stop sharing and then maybe make you the speaker? Yeah, why don't you be the speaker?
Okay, so I'll talk so you guys can see this. Oh, I wonder if I can get rid of my blur. Hold on one second.
And if everybody makes her the speaker, then she'll be the main person.
Getting rid of the blur too. Okay, you guys see this?
Yeah, hold it back just a tad. Yeah.
Can you guys see it now? I think I have to keep talking, so I'm the main person. Sorry, we only had pink and blue and black, but you can see. So unfortunately, the blues, I think around here gets a little confusing. I think, is this all one district here?
Yeah, and it goes all the way up.
Yeah.
All the way up to the top. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. So that was that sprawling district. Yeah.
Yep. I think I got confused with these lines here. This is all together.
Yes. Yeah. Good. Yeah. So that's a demonstration in real time on how you can use the map. So you sort of want to have a printout of the PDF, and you want to be marking it as you're going on and sort of back and forth in terms of making your plan.
And just for people's benefit, that is already on the redistricting website. So if I do a screen share real quick, we go to the redistricting website. This is the pieces tool here. So people can utilize the PDF of the pieces tool map as well as the Excel spreadsheet that is auto-populated with the pieces in it.
And I'd like to say a few words to advocate on the pieces tool. In our experience, many people use the pieces tool way more than use the online software. Now, if there's one city that might use online software, it might be Santa Clara. So I don't want to discourage people from using the online software, and because of all the engineers and the highly educated people, you all might do that. But just to saying, we do deal with a lot of smart people in other cities, and almost all of them use the pieces tool because it's just so easy and handy. And the other thing that happens is if you personally start playing around with the pieces, you'll get to know them. And then it's almost easier to talk about the maps, like saying, oh, well, piece 5 really belongs over here. with these other pieces. And it becomes a handy way, a shorthand to discuss the maps and how you might want to make changes. So even if you do the more route, it is also good to play around yourself with the pieces. And we have Robin Merrill can demonstrate the more software using a different jurisdiction that we are working with. So is that something you would like us to do now?
Thanks, Dr. Lapkov. Just yes, that our next item on the agenda is to an overview of the more tool. So I just want to make sure that in case there is any feedback from the commissioners or the public, then we get that in. So commissioners, anything now, questions?
Vice Chair, this is Elizabeth. Just want to let you know, Chair Marashi did request that some of the acronyms on the tools be spelled out, so we can go ahead and have that done. So just want to bring the whole commission into that. And then Vice Chair, maybe after the questions might be a good time to take a recess.
Yeah. So Dr. Lapkov, so the acronyms, can you please elaborate on them?
Those were the acronyms we spoke about earlier, the CVAP.
Okay.
CV. So we will write those out on the Excel spreadsheet and then resubmit them in the
yes.
You can upload an updated version.
Yes, we will do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. We're so used to using it, we forget.
Any other questions, comments from commissioners? Okay, Rina, in case there's no other questions, so comments from the public?
We have no comments from the public.
Thank you. So then let's close this agenda item. And we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is overview of Maptitude online redistricting tool and action on recommendation. So from commissioners, there's an action on recommendation for city to purchase this tool. So let's have a demonstration first, and then commissioners, then we can discuss about.
Did you want to take a break, or did you want to take the break afterwards?
Yeah, no, I think yeah, it's about 75 minutes, and I believe it will take some time too because it's a new tool. So I think yes, I would like to take a break here. So given that, I think we will have the demonstration will take some time. So I would want to propose a 10-minute break. Any comments from other commissioners? Want a shorter break or longer break?
So 10 minutes, we will reconvene at 7:25.
Okay.
Thank you.
I will now call for resumption of our meeting from the break. So we finish our agenda item number 3. We move on to fourth item, overview of Maptitude online redistricting tool, and then action on recommendation for city to purchase the tool. Dr. Lapkov.
Yes, our very able and smart GIS specialist, Robin Merrill, is going to give the tutorial. She's done it a few times before. She's kind of fun to listen to. And she is going to demonstrate it with another client of ours, Hollister. The city of Hollister has purchased more. And so she's going to use their system to demonstrate, just to give you an idea of what you can do with the software. So Robin, you want to take it away?
Thank you, Shelley. Good evening, commissioners. Happy to be here with you all tonight, and city staff and members of the public. I'm Robin, as Shelley said, LGDR's GIS specialist, and here to provide you with an overview of the online map drawing tool called Maptitude Online Redistricting, or more familiar, MORE, M-O-R-E. Now, as Arena explained, the purpose of this overview is to help you decide if this tool is an option you would like to go with tonight, or you're not deciding tonight, but we're providing the overview tonight. And so we'll just kind of get right in and show you how the tool is used to adjust district boundaries. But before I share my screen with you, lastly, I just wanted to reiterate what Shelley said. The example that we're going to use tonight is for the city of Hollister. They have a live site, they're our client, and they also are going through the redistricting process right now and offering more to the citizens of Hollister. So I'll go ahead and share my screen with you. And I'd like to hear that you can actually see my screen. Once I get it,
Yes.
you can see it. Okay. So how it works is the software company Caliper will provide a link that you will post on your redistricting webpage, and the user will click on that link and it will open to this page.
Oh, Robin, this is
Yes.
Rena.
Hi.
You mentioned Hollister, but I see the city of San Jose's website. I didn't know if that was intentional.
Yeah, no, that was my searching. So maybe I'll just leave it over here. Can you now see the Maptitude? I'm gonna unshare. I'm gonna do a new share.
Sounds good. And just to clarify, I think Robin mentioned we are actually going to ask the commissioners tonight to decide whether or not the city should purchase this tool. So that is an action that we will ask really after the demonstration of the tool.
Okay, now are you able to see?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'll just leave it where it's at. So when you click on the link, this is what the application looks like. And the very first time you open the application, the user will have to create an account. So because it's Hollister and I have been into this site, I have a username and a password, so I will click log in. I think it sat idle for too long. Okay, third time's a charm. Huh. Now I did this 4 times earlier today. Okay, I think I got
That's what it is. Yeah.
It does not want to. I promise it's not this difficult.
Well, sometimes they are.
Well, that's
we
true.
know.
Sometimes they're just, yay. Okay, here we are. Now, the very first time you log in, this is what the user will see. We offer two options. The first option is the current plan. So when you log in and you click on current plan and you open the current plan, you're going to see the city of Santa Clara's 6 council districts. The other option is the base map. Base map is just a term we used for a blank map. It's starting from scratch. It will give you your 1197 census blocks to combine and create districts. We'll give you your city limits and some other geographic layers that you can use to help guide your map drawing, like roads, railroads, and rivers. But for tonight's purpose, we'll just look at your look at City of Hollister's current plan. And so I click on current plan and I click create. And now it's asking me, what do I want to call this plan? I'll call it tonight's plan, but you can call it whatever you want. I personally like to use dates when I create a new plan, helps me keep track. And then the application will open up to this map. And of course, instead of seeing the city of Hollister, you'll see your beautiful city of Santa Clara. So the city of Hollister currently has 4 districts. And as we can see down here in Council District 4, their 2020 census population has too few people. And over here in District 2, they have too many people. So what we want to do is we want to move some people out of 2 and into maybe 3, but for sure 4, so that we can balance the populations and get under that 10% deviation. And maybe even move some out of 1. This application does a really good job of keeping all of the tools that you need to move district lines hidden away in these little boxes here. And the toolboxes are in the 4 corners of your map: upper left, upper right, lower right. And most of the tools in the application work as a toggle. You click on them to open them, and you click on them again to close them. So the top left here shows you all of the layers that are in your map. And a lot of them will become visible as you zoom into the map. And down here in the bottom left is a list of the districts. Now with Hollister, they have 4 districts. So when you click on this, you would see your 6 districts with all of your population statistics. So I'll just close that box for now. And I'll go up here to the redistricting toolbox. And this is the toolbox that you will use the most, along with this down here in the bottom right, your pending changes. Now your redistricting toolbox is what you use to move territory from one district to another or change council district lines. So as I said before, I would start with this plan by zooming in to the 3-4 boundary, because I want to move some census blocks out of 3 and into 4, so I can bring 4 up to closer to a 0% deviation, plus or minus a couple of percentage points. So my source, I'm going to take from District 3, and then I'm going to put them in the target district of 4. And now I'm ready to move some census blocks. So I think I want to take this area right here, this rectangle area, and just start clicking on census blocks to move them. And if that takes too long, there's another tool that you can use where you can draw a shape around as many census blocks as you would like. The tool is very sensitive. Double click at the end. And like I said, it's very sensitive. So if it touches one, it'll select it, but it's easy to deselect by clicking on it again. So now I've clicked on this group of census blocks here that I can move from District 3 to District 4. And the nice thing is I can go down to these pending changes and I can see what is that going to result in. it's going to give me a 2.6% deviation for District 4. That's pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and save that change. So now my District 4 comes out here, and I can see that District 3 is now at negative 14%. So now I need to go and fix that. So I click on my pan tool and I move my map. And I need to take some of District 2 and put it into District 3. So I need to change my source, which is District 2, and my target, where it's going, District 3. And I'm ready to move some census blocks, and I'll just use my draw shape tool. And maybe I'll just grab these right here, double click to end. I've got some extras here that I don't want. So I'll select them to deselect. And I'll look down here in my pending changes. I skipped a block here. Look down in my pending changes, and I can see now that District 3 is at negative 2.8%. So it brought it up from negative 14.5 to negative 2.8. That looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and click on that, make that change. And now I can see that I've got District 4 at 2.3 and District 3 at negative 2.8. Can still do a little better. We're still at above 10% deviation with District 1 at 5.4 and District 2 at negative 5.2. So I would probably look to maybe move some blocks between 1 and 2, but that gives you a good idea how you can take census blocks and move them from one district to another. Like I said, a lot of these tools work on a toggle, and there are a lot more options that are offered here to with this application. And there will be a learning curve for it after just using it a couple of times to get used to it. But what's really nice, Caliper has done a really good job of giving you some help here. So if you click on this help tab, it pops up this quick start guide. And I'll cursor up here to the very top of the quick start guide. Starts at the very beginning, shows you exactly how to create an account. And then if you cursor down here to modifying districts in your plan, it gives you a picture of what the map looks like. So this diagram here is actually a picture of what we see the city of Hollister in our map. And it gives you these, it identifies each toolbox by number in these red teardrops. And then if you go down, it will say, okay, well, what does the tool number 2 do? Tool number 2, it will walk you through exactly what tool that those tools offer. So anytime you get stuck, you can open this quick start guide. And the nice thing about the quick start guide is you don't even have to be logged into a live account. As soon as you click on the link, this quick start guide, you can click on the help tab and get this quick start guide. You can print it out. And it's also available, it can be a link can be added to your redistricting page for the quick start guide itself. Another feature of More that is very nice that Caliper did is that it offers it in other languages in case English isn't your preferred language. And it offers a tip tab where you can run through it, and it'll show you little tips on how to use each of the tools. Then when you have your plan and you want to share your plan, you click on the Share Plan tab, and you can email the plan to city staff. There will be a designated email address for you to do that. That will also be on the redistricting website. And I called this plan tonight's plan, and I can type in a little message. Here's my plan. You can say whatever you want if there's a message you want to give to staff. And then you and click on here what types of files that you will send. So either as reshaped files or maptitude redistricting files work, you can do one or both. It also sends a picture of your map and very nicely sends a data table of your population statistics for your plan. And you click send and it will go. That wraps up the general overview of MORE, and we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Commissioners, comments and or questions?
I do want to add one thing. Sorry to interrupt. When you log out, when you're done creating your plan or working on a plan, the application automatically saves your work. So you don't have to worry about saving anything. You can come back to any of the plans that you have started or created or copied. So that is one nice feature about the application. You don't have to worry about saving your work. It automatically saves everything.
Thanks. Actually, I'll probably go to Rena. So Rena, I think you said that you'll give us a sense of what does it cost so that we take that into account when we ask our questions.
Yes. And I wanted to know before I do tell you the amount, Robin, did you speak to how they can find demographic information like the CV AR, I think it is, right? I'm getting the acronym wrong, but you know, the citizens, the voting citizens, the percentages.
Citizens voting age population.
Yes, thank
CVAP.
you.
Yeah, I think I don't know if I understand the question right. You asking
when people draw maps, similar to the Pieces tool, where there's some calculations where you can understand the demographic changes. Does this MORE tool allow people? And I'm sorry if I missed that. Show the demographic changes beyond just population size. I apologize if I'm asking you to repeat that.
Yes, I'm going to share my screen with you again. Okay, can you see the application now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so down here in this pending changes box, is that what you're referring to, Rena?
Actually, I think that you do have some demographic information in the box on the lower left as well.
Yes, so it will give you all of the population statistics that are added into the block layer that is incorporated into the districting plan, the redistricting plan. So yes, it's going to give you the total population, the deviation, the total population by race, ethnic group, and then it'll go into the 18+ pop, and then the CVAP, which is the citizen voting age population.
Great, and thank you for explaining that. And Vice Chair Agrawal, so the cost to the city will be between $25,000 and $30,000 to utilize this tool. There's a cost for the tool, and then there is some additional cost for the demographers because they'll be needing to also spend more time evaluating that tool. But the bulk of that cost is really about getting a license to utilize the tool itself.
And the license is not based on the number of registered users, but just the city cost, right? Okay. Okay. Thank you, Rena. Commissioners?
This is Elizabeth. Chair Marashi has sent in some comments, so I'd like to read those. It's on this item. The first question is, once we buy MORE, what are the recurring costs for this software? Will the city own it forever? The second question is, currently how many districts use MORE versus Pieces, and how long have they been using them? The third question is, there a way to share MORE tool with another district and share the costs? And two more questions. How many user accounts can be created in the MORE tool? And the last question is, does Caliper, the company who built MORE tool, offer a free trial for a limited number of days?
I will answer some of these questions, and actually I know Robin and Dr. Lapkoff have experience using it. So my understanding is that, you know, as I mentioned before, it is one cost for the city to allow the entire population to access the tool. I think, I am not entirely sure how long it is available for us. For the purposes of redistricting, we only have until April 17th to adopt the maps. So I'm not entirely sure if it would be even relevant to have it for a period of time after the maps are adopted. I can look into that, but really for the purposes of why we need the public to use this tool, it's to help inform the creation of the maps. And I'm sorry, Elizabeth, I didn't catch all those questions and what else was missing to respond.
One of them was if multiple jurisdictions can share the license, and the answer
Right.
to that is no. Each one is customized for that your particular jurisdiction. And what was another question?
There's no trial period.
No.
They don't offer that. They have a fair amount of setup costs. And just to reiterate or amplify what Rena said, I think you get it for a year, but you would not need it for more than a couple months. So there's no reason to have it. And you wouldn't need to, that's not one of the things you need to keep for 10 years. There is a monthly cost if you're hosting, if you want them to host the site. I don't know what you agreed internally.
I think the pricing we were looking at is for them to host because of the short turnaround time. We
quoted $3,000 for about 3 months.
Right.
Caliper did.
So the pricing I gave assumed that they would host, not the city, which for people to understand what that means, it's it would take the city more time to take this tool, put it on our website. There are things that we would need to do with our IT department, and it would take even more time. It's much quicker for more to host the city. The experience for the user is the same. It's just who hosts it on their website. But just the practicalities of the short period of time this tool is actually available for people, time is of the essence. And so the pricing I gave is for more to actually host.
Well, then you would want to take it down as soon as the process was done, because you wouldn't want to keep paying their monthly hosting fee. That would be good for a couple months.
And you wouldn't need it anymore anyway.
Yeah.
There were two more questions that she asked that haven't been addressed yet, which is how many jurisdictions use map to 2 or more versus the pieces tool, and for how long are they using them? And then there was one final question, which is how many user accounts can be created in the more tool to understand.
I think it's 1,000 user accounts, so for our purposes, it's infinite.
Caliper does say that the application can be used concurrently by 50 users at one time.
Okay.
But there can be far more accounts than that.
Correct. Yes.
And a logistical question is how would residents sign up for an account? Do they have to sign up for their own individual account, or how does that work?
Robin showed you how a user could go through the city's website to get into the tool and set up their own account. It's really simple. You saw her having difficulty with passwords.
Yeah, so she was logging into the account that she already had created. So
yes,
any resident would have to go through an account creation process. Is that what it is?
Yes.
Before they could use it?
Yes.
Got it.
Yes.
Got it.
And I don't know how we answer how many use pieces versus.
No, but more is being used by thousands of jurisdictions. Many, it's the very largest as far as I know. Most used piece of online redistricting software. As far as I know, there's some competitors, but Maptitude has been doing this for longer than anybody else, I think. You can go on the Caliper website and see their list of clients if you want.
Vice Chair Agarwal, I just want to point out that Chair Marashi's hands up as well as Chair
That's what I was going
McElwain's.
to, yeah. So Chair Murashi, go ahead.
A quick follow-up question here. Since you mentioned that only 1,000 people can create user accounts, it means that I want to bring this to notice to all the commissioners that only 1 in 120 citizens in city of Santa Clara can use it, and we are paying around 25 to 30K for these many people. And the second thing was, since we don't know for sure for how long are we going to use have this tool, I asked this because even though I know that the redistricting happens every 10 years, this is a big cost. And if we were to have this tool forever, then 25 to 30K cost is nothing. But if we were going to pay this for like next 5-6 months and only 6 and 7 people use, is it even worth the cost? So these are the 2 points I wanted to bring up, and that is why I asked how long can we have this, because just having this piece of information can change my vote whether to.
Yeah, so Dr. Lapkoff did clarify that it is a year.
Okay.
And however, for our intended purposes, really people will be using it really until we adopt the map.
And I think the number of users is 1,000. It's just that there 50 can be on it simultaneously. Is that right, Robin?
Yes, 50 concurrently.
But 1,000 accounts total.
Okay.
Chair Marashi, your point being very expensive tool for, if not very much used. Yes.
Right.
One thing I wanted, sorry,
Chair Marashi had a statement was how many people are using this tool as compared to the pieces tool? And
well, I don't believe that all redistricting companies like ours offer pieces, first of all. And I have no idea what share of the uses of pieces versus the online tool. It's just that we have jurisdictions using both, and they satisfy the need to have a simple tool for people who aren't very computer savvy and want something simpler, and people who are more interested in refining maps and are technically savvy would want to use the other. So they're not really alternate ways to do mapping, but simultaneous. And the Fair Maps Act's emphasis on community involvement does include having the ability for members of the community to draft plans themselves. It doesn't have to be more. It could just be pieces, but you need to consider what your constituency is like and how much they would want to use the tool. And we can't forecast that for you, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner McClellan, so you have your hand up.
How long would it take for the company to load the city of Santa Clara data for the Maptitude to be available?
So there is a bit of administrative, we needed feedback today from the commission, right? So tomorrow we can move forward with the contract if changes, should that be the desire of the commission. And then it does take about a week for the demographers to kind of set the tool and work with the tool. So we are looking at probably it being available 2 weeks from now.
Okay.
Actually, Caliper may need more time than that. It depends on how busy they are and with the holidays.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
With our past clients, they were quoting 2 to 3 weeks lead time.
Okay,
Once they get the geographic data from us.
So after January 1st.
That's probably the better estimate of time.
Thank you. I have Commissioner Baldwin.
Do we know how many cities in the Bay Area are using just pieces versus a software tool? It's like I said, I know Sunnyvale and San Jose both use something comparable to more, but do we know any city that's in the area that's using just a pieces tool for their council redistricting?
I have an answer for that in a roundabout way. The Calipers website says that as of now, San Francisco, Berkeley, and San Leandro in the Bay Area use this particular tool. So, I presume that nobody else uses it in the Bay Area. This is just the Bay Area. Just answer your question in a roundabout way.
I was asking though is how many are using just pieces? I mean, just a manual Excel spreadsheet versus a software tool. Do we know of any city in the Bay Area that's using just an Excel spreadsheet? Or do they go to the more granular?
Some may not have anything. It's possible not to have anything as well.
Which cities have?
I don't know. That I don't know.
I look for Cupertino. I did a little benchmarking. I look for Cupertino. Apparently they're not in districts. So they didn't have any tool because they weren't just redistricting. But Sunnyvale and, like I said, San Jose both used another tool, but it was very similar. It used the census blocks, and it was hosted by whoever is the provider of that tool. But I just wonder, is there any other cities that are using just the pieces tool? Because the advantage of the software, of course, is you can get down to that fine granularity that you can't get with the Excel spreadsheet.
Mm-hmm.
Currently, it seemed like District 11 or the piece 11 was the one that was sort of the linchpin in terms of it's got a huge population. So Diane's map was based about trying to get around breaking up 11. And so that's why it came out with sort of less compact than the existing one. But I think with the pieces tool, you could take piece 11, or excuse me, with Maptitude or something similar, you could take piece 11 and you could fine tune it to get a small amount of the population and put into District 1 and take it out of District 2. So you could come with a more compact map than you can currently get with the pieces that we have. But I just wondered if we don't know of any other city that's using. I
personally do not. I don't know. It doesn't sound like Dr. Goblet or Lapkoff or Robin, if you have any sense of, and beyond, and I do want to say, like, everyone's redistricting now. So it's not just cities, it's counties, it's, anyone with like districts, really, like school districts and such, or community college districts. So I don't know if that extends to any, Dr. Goblet and Dr. Lapkoff, if you are aware of others who are just using the pieces, or a manual, like a more, like, not as much of an online based platform, I guess.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment. The pieces tool is a tool that is developed by Drs. Lapkoff and Goblet. Like, it's not a commercially available tool. It is a tool that they developed initially back when we did the very first districting after 2018. So, or was it just before 2018? So that was a tool, and of course, obviously, all the numbers have been updated based on the new 2020 census. So do other jurisdictions use the pieces tool? They certainly don't use ours, but have Dr. Lapkoff and Dr. Goblet leverage the same process in working with other jurisdictions, certainly. And then, of course, there may be other firms or demographers that have utilized a similar approach that didn't necessarily use the commercial tool that is the Maptitude. Like, that's a more nationwide commercially available software, right? So Rena is right. Like, everybody's going through redistricting now. How they approach it will depend very much on the demographers that each jurisdiction works with or contracts with. So just wanted to clarify that point.
Okay. Commissioner Morris.
Yeah, hi, thanks. I actually, I like the Magnitude tool. It actually helps you going to a very granular level as compared to the pieces tool. But again, actually, I think this has to be seen in the context of how big a population are we talking about. I mean, if you look at the Calipers website, you will see that the number of states and legislative districts have, congressional districts have used Magnitude as against very few number of cities. Actually, in California, there are just about 5 or 6 cities who are their users, including the 3 that I mentioned in the Bay Area. So I basically don't see the real merit of using this against a population of 100,000 or plus or minus. That's my assessment. And again, I think we I don't know why we are put under the sword to decide within 10 minutes about this tool. I think we should need more time to decide this. If this is a $30,000 piece, unless the city has a lot of money, and that's okay with us. But even if they have money, I think it is not fair to put a sword or a gun to a head and say that, okay, you decide in 10 minutes and let's move on with the next.
Commissioner Morris, we can obviously talk about this at the next meeting.
Okay.
The longer we take to decide it, the less time people have to use it. Because the thing that we are under the sword for is that we have to have a map adopted by April 17th. And so that is a finite period of time. And we literally cannot wait till the last minute for that. We have to make progress on the process, right? So
Right.
it's more to get a sense of how interested the commission is. If you need more time, that's just another consideration for you, is the value then of the tool for people for a less limited period of time.
Right. Okay, got it.
Thank you, Commissioner Morris. Chair Mirashi.
Yeah, thank you. Commissioner Baldwin brought up a good point, and I would like to ask, I do understand that Pieces tool and this software have, the biggest difference here is that the granularity that we can go into by using the software. So I see that benefit in the software. And I would like to explore or survey what our neighboring cities or the counties have used as a tool. Right now, based on our discussion, it seems like we have no idea about what exactly other cities are using. And it would be a good idea to learn from our neighbors too, so that we make a good decision. And I agree with Commissioner Morris. Selecting a right tool will be like spending time in sharpening the axe. And once the axe is sharpened, we can cut the tree easily. Like we can do the work easily once we know the tool is right. Because anyway, irrespective of which tool we use, there is going to be a learning curve. Yeah, I would like for us to survey different tools that our neighbors are using, neighboring cities, of course, and then take that decision instead of deciding between just 2 tools. Thank you.
Let me also offer one thought here, because since the last meeting, city staff has been in contact with the demographers, and there were other tools that were explored as well. I think Irina can elaborate on this, because some of those firms that offer those other tools similar to Maptitude, Irina and the team reached out to them, and they didn't accept even giving us a quote for using their tool. And as you can imagine, every jurisdiction in the entire country that is in districts is going through the process. And so those firms are basically limited in their ability to support, all these requests that are coming in. And so they're probably prioritizing, I think, as Commissioner Morris said, like based on the larger city sizes, right? Because they could probably charge more for that. So I think like Maptitude is not the only tool out there. Like it's not the only firm or software that's out there, but out of the, and I don't know, Rena, how many you reached out to, but out of the ones that were reached out to, it was the only firm or company that responded in the positive that they could support us. So Rena, maybe you can just shed a little bit of light on that.
Yeah, sure. So specifically, I reached out to District R. They are a firm that actually offers free availability for cities to do a lot of the online kind of user accessibility to creating maps. I reached out to them multiple times. I got a negative answer where they were not able to provide this service for us. And then I reached out multiple times more to be, certain that, we've used as many resources as possible to try and get their attention. And they will not be able to provide this service for us. That is a tool that some of the neighboring cities have available to them. Another consideration is really also how the city gets resources, right? And how we procure resources. So Maptitude was a part of the contract that Gobelay and Lapkoff included as part of their contract with the city as an optional activity. And because of that, we can actually leverage our existing contract with Gobelay and Lapkoff and use Maptitude and still have gone through a procurement process to have selected ultimately Lapkoff and Gobelay who will be using this tool. Without getting into too many technicalities, if we want to go through another purchasing process that could be as considerable as like $30,000, for instance, we may need to do a procurement process, which actually is very time consuming, and we certainly would not have time for that, for this process. So that's just another kind of practical consideration here. So I did want people to know, because District R is a tool that people are talking about, and we did reach out to them, that unfortunately is not something we can utilize. And there is a procurement issue with, we cannot just like find a tool that we like and say, hey, we want them, like, let's go with it. We do have to go through an actual process, and Maptitude has gone through that process in us selecting Gobelay and Lapkoff. So that is something we could easily tap into through an optional service of our agreement with them. So those are just some practicalities.
Thank you, Rina. Chair Mirashi, you have any follow-up questions?
Sorry, I forgot to lower my.
Okay. So I have Commissioner Jensen.
Thanks. I'm going to try to advocate for the Pieces tool, which is based on, I see the value of a lot of flexibility like the online tool offers. My concern with that much flexibility, and the reason why I really like the Pieces approach is that visual of our neighborhoods overlaid onto the current district lines and seeing how neighborhoods based the Pieces already are. I think with the increased flexibility of each individual census block, it presents a temptation to start to cut those neighborhoods into smaller pieces that would, kind of create concerns for dividing neighborhoods up. And that's why I really like the Pieces tool to begin with, is because it really preserves those existing neighborhoods already, keeps those intact. And when we ask the demographers to make smaller pieces, sub-pieces where we saw those ABCs, I think we can be a little bit more intentional about how we ask those pieces to be drawn versus opening up the gamut of census blocks. So that's kind of my advocacy for the Pieces approach, is just a neighborhoods-based approach. And that's my advocacy.
Thank you, Commissioner Jensen. So any other commissioners? Otherwise, I can at least bring in my perspective. Okay, so one of the things that kind of is different for us, unlike other cities, is we have changes only for the last 2.5 years, because our last redistricting was done on 2018. So unlike other cities who have 10 years of changes that they probably need to do some, they need some better tool. But for our purposes, our changes are much smaller since it's only over like last 2.5 years. So that's one part. So Pieces tool to me with some further adjustments in terms of their block sizes, I think is something that can serve our purpose. And also the part that if we try to, apart from aptitude, if you try to look at other tools, it's going to take time to get probably where good. And then any tool that we go for, it has to be customized. It has to be, we have to get support, ask for support from that tool company, because then we have to feed in our data, and then kind of setup part is going to take time given where we are. And I think what our requirements are, I would also advocate for the PCs tool. Okay, any other commissioner, any other questions, thoughts before I open it up to public?
I've got, I'll be the naysayer, I guess, because I think that the software tool, the More tool, would offer us a better product than Pieces can, because I submitted some requests for divisions of the existing Pieces, and a lot of them were acted on. The demographers did act on a lot of them, but like I said, if we can take that piece 11 and fine tune it, we wouldn't have to come up with the radical changes like in Diane's map. It was a great map, and I did one myself. I didn't submit it, but you have to do something similar with District 1, or else you're just not going to get the right population balances. So, and that District 1 that she came up with is the best she could, but it's definitely not compact. So we violate what is compared to the existing map. It's not compact at all. And we've got this protrusion going into District 1. District 2 protrudes into District 1 now. And if we had a map, the More tool, we could make a very compact map, and by just changing a little bit of the population in 11 and shifting it into piece 11 and shifting it into District 1. So that's, if we do stay with just the pieces, I'd like to see the demographers act on our requests so that we can get down to something that doesn't look like it's been gerrymandered, even though we aren't gerrymandering it.
Good points. Can we get some feedback from Dr. Lapkoff, or yes, someone else?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't know that you had asked for a further division of 11. We certainly can do that.
I did. It was in that email I sent more than a month ago.
Actually, I looked at it, and I think the area that you described couldn't be accomplished because of the configuration of census blocks, which we don't split when redistricting. That's what my conclusion was.
Well, yes, part of it was, I could see the point. I wanted to divide the industrial section from the residential section, and I could see where you couldn't do that. But I also requested a dividing line of De La Cruz Boulevard, which would have been an easy one to do. That would have given you a north-south, it would have given you a east-west division, and that would have been able to, it wouldn't be as compact as dividing it between the industrial and the residential, but it would have been able to, you would have been able to use those other pieces if you used just De La Cruz Boulevard as a dividing line.
If you wouldn't mind emailing your specific boundaries for the piece when divided, because that would be very helpful. And they do need to be along streets and not back property lines and things like that.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know that, and that's why if you had if you had the More tool, you'd run across that.
Yeah, you'd find out that you couldn't do it that way either.
You know what we could do, if we could give a detailed block map of piece 11. So you could see what, now it'll be obvious where it could be split and where it couldn't be. So maybe we could give that to staff, and it could go out to the commission. So if there's other pieces besides 11 that you feel we didn't respond to, let us know, and we'll we can give a detailed map so then you can say, split it here.
Yes, 11 was one, and then the other one was that White Drive, Las Palmas Drive that was dividing up a neighborhood. That was the other one that wasn't acted on, and there may be good reasons. Maybe what I proposed wasn't practical, but yeah,
Well,
that
we should come back and tell you why we didn't do that,
Okay.
actually. So that was piece 5, is that what you said?
no, it was piece 11, and I forget what the other ones were. It was 23, I think. I'm not sure. I'd have to look at the pieces.
Okay, so, all right.
Looks like there may be a few hot spots that we may want to kind of split down into smaller blocks or something, so that will give us more flexibility.
Yeah, it was 26 and 33 are the other two that I was thinking of.
26 and 33.
33, yeah.
Okay.
I did subdivide pieces to the extent I could from the information you provided last month. But
that was probably it. You couldn't do with some of the things I asked for.
yeah, I needed to ask you more questions, and I guess I got distracted and didn't do that. But if you email more specifics to the city, they'll pass it along to us, and we can investigate further.
Great.
And anybody else there who wants more pieces, refinements, that might make it easier to draw plans. But after a while, it gets too refined. So there's a balance.
Yeah, it gets cumbersome when you have too many pieces. So we like to be judicious and only split the ones where you actually need, where there might be a boundary going through them.
I'll submit an email and I'll give you what I'm trying to do, and you can see whether it's practical.
Thank you.
That would also be good, just because the next round will be presenting some draft maps. So if anybody has thoughts about that, that would be a good time. Anytime would be good to air them. I don't know if we have time to do that tonight or not, or if that's on the agenda or not.
I
No,
don't
we
think so.
can't do that tonight. It's painstaking work.
Correct, exactly. I think you would need some time to, get the data.
It took a long time to add pieces to the 37 to get to the 47 we have now.
Okay, I think I have one more hand, Commissioner Michael Hunt.
Yeah, I guess I'm leaning towards, voting for the more tool. When I downloaded the Excel spreadsheet, I had several failures. It may be because I have a very old copy of Excel, but I don't use it except for my own purposes, and so my version I'm using works great for me, because I don't need it for any business purposes. So I would tend to vote for the more, because it seemed like a very easy tool to use. You go in and everything would be presented to you at that time, and you can just move around the smaller little pieces, the more census block.
Interesting. I just downloaded the pieces and loaded it up, and it worked first time. It seems worked well for me.
So if I may,
yes.
Commissioner McElhern brings up a good point that there may be some folks out there that don't have the Excel software. And so we don't want to exclude them from the process, right? And so maybe it's worth looking at whether or not you choose to use the more tool or not, since the pieces tool is available as a tool, regardless of whether you use more or not. Maybe Rena and Elizabeth, we can work with Drs. Lapkoff and Gobele to upload the file using the city's online office. And so just using a web browser, you would be able to use the online office version of Excel rather than needing a local copy of an updated Excel software on your computer. And that might help address anybody's, the concern that anybody in the community, as long as they have a web browser, they can log on to the tool even if they don't have the latest Excel software. So maybe that's something we should do regardless of whatever the decision is about more, is to just make sure that everybody has access to that. And I think Dr. Gobley has her hand up.
Just a reminder, the pieces tool does come in as pieces of paper map and paper printout of the population in each piece. And so you don't even have to have a computer to use pieces. And it would help to have a pocket calculator or use a calculator on your phone, but you don't have to use Excel to use pieces.
Yeah, so let's do this. Let's maybe look at this after the meeting. Rena will look at using the online office, and in any case, we can also make available some printed copies for anybody in the community to pick up a set of printed copies from the city clerk's office. Again, the whole point of this is that anybody in the community should be able to participate in the process, even if they don't have the electronics or the tools to play with these fancy tools, but they should be able to do it in any regard. So we'll take that. It's a really good feedback, Commissioner McLaurin. We'll take that feedback and try to get something working for you in short order.
Thanks, Sam. I do not see any other hands. So anybody from the public, any comments?
Yes, we have Diane Harrison. Diane, you've been unmuted.
Okay, hi. Yeah, I started out with 2 technical questions on the Moore plan, but after listening to all of you, I have other things I thought I'd mention. First of all, to Alok's comment, we were in 2018, we used the 2010 census data because we did not have 2018 census data. So we really are looking at 10 years worth of changes. We had some estimates, but basically we had to use the 2010 census. At that time, by the way, we used only pieces. So people were asking about, did anybody use only pieces? Well, our city used only pieces in 2018, and we came up with the maps we have, which are good for the most part. As far as the last part about the Excel, we don't have Microsoft Office in our house. It's expensive. So we have Open Office, which is free, downloaded for free. The Open Office can open an Excel file or a Microsoft Word file, whatever, and can put it in its own format, and then can save that format back into the original format to transmit it to other people. So you really don't need to pay for it. So anybody who has a computer and an internet access can download the Open Office and use it just the same way as the Microsoft program. Several people suggested, and I was going to suggest also, is that whether we do or if we decide not to do the Moore plan, a good compromise is to go for smaller pieces. I don't know that we particularly want to have almost 1,200 pieces, just like the census blocks, but it would be probably good to have pieces that were less than 10,000 or possibly even less than 5,000 people each. I originally suggested 10,000, but if you want more pieces, you could have 5,000 each. I'm not suggesting we go down to the largest there was 1,703, but that way it's a little more malleable. And I suggested some dividing lines. I think if we all suggest some dividing lines, that like one that wasn't discussed just now is the mixture of 28A, 28B, and 34. 34 is tiny. You could massage those little lines around to maybe make more equal districts there or something like that, so that you don't have those 2 huge ones, 28A and B, and then tiny little 34. So anyway, there's a lot of things that can be done for some of those really large districts, because that one's still over 10,000 as well. Oh yeah, okay, back to my technical questions is, first of all, this is, I'll ask both of them and you can answer both of them. What is an Esri shapefile? That was mentioned as a way to save it. I had no idea what that was. And then also one thing that that's nice with the pieces, and I couldn't tell whether that was there for the Moore program, is whether you have the CVAP for each census block. In other words, for each census block, can you see what's the percent Hispanic, what's the percent Asian, what's the percent Black, you know, because I was using that a lot when I was doing that plan that you guys were looking at, which I thank you very much for. That was very nice of you. But I was, you know, trying to create as high a Hispanic percentage as I could in our city. And so anyway, if you had that for each census block, that would be more helpful than if we don't. If we don't, then you have to move it around and see what happens. Move it around, see what happens. Whereas if you have the numbers, and I don't know if they offer that, but that would be more helpful. So I think that was all my stuff. So I'll wait, take your answer, however, yeah.
May I take a stab at answering?
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I don't think you should have an objective of having pieces being small in population, because there are some parts of the city that have to be in a single council district, and there could be more than 10,000 people in the piece, but you'd never subdivide it because it's at maybe one of the corners of the city or something, and you wouldn't ever want to divide it. Instead, I think pieces should be viewed as chunks of territory that belong together, that you could combine with others to make a council district. So not numbers of people per piece, but whether they're sensible building blocks for council districts, and they do not need to be small in population. And an Esri shape file is just another electronic file format for saving the boundaries, geographical boundaries of something like a districting plan. I think Robin quickly showed us that Moore does have CVAP, citizen voting age population, and race ethnic detail for the total population, voting age population, and CVAP, all of those. So yes, Moore does give you that capability, and that's in pieces as well. At least some of it is.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm not sure if I was asking about census blocks.
Yes.
Yes, it's in the census block.
Yes, that's more. More uses census blocks, and each census block has that data in it. Okay, and the software More automatically combines these and gives you the totals in the data view, as it's called, which Robin showed us. Also, it's a table listing each of the council districts and columns with all of these variables in it, not just the numbers, but the percentages as well.
Thank you, Dr. Golpale. Okay, I think that is our end of our public discussion. So our action item on this item, agenda item, was to take a vote on the recommendation for the city to purchase More tool. I'm trying to, is at this point of time, can we make the decision, or do we defer the decision? If we defer, obviously, as Gina also pointed out, there are kind of issues with those things also. So commissioners, any thoughts on that? If anybody has, otherwise,
yes, is there a motion on the floor?
So as a matter of process, if you don't do anything, the city won't buy it.
Right.
So you don't need to take a motion if you don't want to do anything. But if you want to buy it, then somebody should propose a motion, and then another person would second it, and then you would have a discussion on the motion, which I guess we've been doing already for the last half hour, and then make a decision. You take a roll call vote. But if you weren't going to do anything, the current status quo is that we haven't bought it, we haven't planned to buy it unless the commission directs us to.
Thank you. I think, sorry, go ahead.
So if we don't buy it, we do get to use pieces. There's no extra cost that's already in the contract.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So I think I would. Yes, I'll ask. Do I have a motion or a second on this item to purchase this tool? And I think let's get first. From me, do I have a motion and a second on this item to purchase More tool?
Looks like Commissioner Baldwin's hand is raised.
Well, I was going to I think I know which way the council, the commission's going, but I would propose that we do buy the Moore tool.
So do I have a second for this?
Second.
In this case, we should be voting, right? And see,
No.
because
Yeah, first,
if someone can second and the motion will be passed, right?
no, just that do we vote on this or no? First, I need to have a
Yes,
proposal and a
you
second.
have a, this is Elizabeth, you have a motion on the floor right now from Commissioner Baldwin to purchase the software and a second from McElhern. Is that correct?
Commissioner McElhern, did you second it?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Okay, so you do have a motion and a second, so we will take a vote on that.
So the vote is to purchase for the city to purchase the Nemaptitude tool. So if you were in favor, you would tell us yes. If you're opposed, you would say no.
Sorry, as a matter of process again. So Vice Chair Agrawal, there's now a live motion on the floor. Before a vote is taken, typically you will, entertain discussion. I know obviously we've been discussing the merits, the pros and cons of getting it or not, but now that there's an official motion on the floor, you would entertain discussion. And then once you determined that the discussion is done, then you would then call the vote.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion on the floor. Anybody, first commissioners, anything that you want to add to advocate to your position?
Yeah, I mean, I have a question actually. My question is, I just want to know what the total cost would be. I mean, I know that we had mentioned it earlier, but I just want to know if we say yes, what will be the total cost impact? One time, I guess it's a one-time cost, or monthly, but up to April, whatever that may be. Can I have just a number for that cost would be?
Yeah, it'll be no more than $30,000. It's between $25,000 to $30,000.
Okay. And that will include all the work from the demographers also, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Chair Mirashi, you have a hand up?
Yes, I have 2 points to discuss. First, if most of the commissioners are willing to have a survey where we get to know what our neighboring cities are using, then I would opt for that. But if majority doesn't want to go that route, considering the impracticality and possible delay, within the 2 tools, I would vote for pieces with all the data that we have.
Okay, we'll come to a vote call later. So I'm just making sure that we go through any other. So Commissioner Baldwin?
I just wanted a clarification. When we're voting for the Moore tool, if you vote for it, we're not saying that pieces would go away. Pieces would still be a viable alternative.
It's an additive tool, so pieces would still be there.
Okay, good. That was my question.
Okay. Chair Mirashi, you have a hand up. Is it, you have anything else or you? Okay. Okay, I think, so staff, can you please take the roll call? Okay, vote via roll call.
So the motion is to purchase the tool. So an aye vote would be a vote towards purchasing the tool, and a no vote will be to not purchase the tool.
Okay.
Okay. Chair Mirashi?
No, but I guess we missed the point where we didn't ask others if they want the survey to be done.
So Chair Mirashi, right now the motion on the floor is to purchase the tool or no. So we have to vote on that. If we can bring another motion later, but the motion on the floor and seconded was, do we purchase the tool? So it's an aye or nay for that.
Right. Yeah, I understand that, but this vote will be invalid if we go back to that vote. Just saying. Does that make sense? The city staff?
So the way that Robert's Rules of Order work is that there is one motion on the floor. You can offer a friendly amendment where you say, hey, would the maker of the motion be open to a change to their motion? I don't know the practicalities of whether your change would fit within the context of the motion or not, but you can change a motion on the floor if somebody who made the motion is interested in entertaining that change and willing to make the change. So it would be Chair Baldwin, you would have to ask him how he would want to change the motion. Otherwise, we would vote on the motion and whether or not it passes or fails. And if it fails, then it's open for more discussion. If it passes, then that's the end of that decision, right? So you could think about whether you want to ask.
Yeah, sorry about that. I vote no.
Okay.
Commissioner Aker,
I vote no.
Commissioner Morris,
I vote no.
Commissioner McElhern,
Vote yes.
Commissioner Jensen,
No.
Vice Chair Agarwal,
No.
Commissioner Baldwin.
Yes.
The motion fails.
I believe it was 5-2, right, Elizabeth?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. So moving on to our fifth item, redistricting schedule and next steps of presentation of draft maps in January. Rina, will you please provide your presentation or talk about it?
Yes. If you will, I am going to share a slide. This is information that the commission has seen before. Just wanted to drill down on what our next steps are. So our next meeting on January 13th, right, we are going to have the demographers have maps that they will be presenting to us. And we will also have an opportunity for the public to present any maps as well. And that is really the first time that we're going to be looking at maps specifically and asking questions about them, delving into them, providing more feedback to the demographers. We like this, we don't like that. And this is really, I think, we haven't, I think we did look at Diane Harrison's map. We didn't evaluate it, we talked about it, right? So this is an opportunity for us to be presented maps that the demographers have on their initial ideas, as well as for any member of the public. So this information that I'm sharing with everyone is not just for the commissioners, is really also for people in the public who are listening now, is that really on January 13th, we would be very much interested in listening, being presented the maps that you have created. And then on January 29th, that's a Saturday meeting. And when we went through, the process for redistricting, you remember that we are obligated to have Saturday meetings and evening meetings. So that's a very intentional meeting being a Saturday. And we are going to continue receiving any maps. We're going to receive refinements from the demographers based on the map input that we've provided thus far. And at that meeting on the 29th, we will have fulfilled our minimal obligations per the law. If there is a map that we like, that when I say we, I'm sorry, I mean the commissioners can take a vote to adopt the map as early as January 29th. I want everyone to be aware that the process could conclude as early as the 29th. If there is still more refinements, more feedback that we would like of the maps, and once again, I mean the commissioners more specifically, using the term we incorrectly, it does not include myself, right? Then we have these meetings scheduled for February 10th and February 28th, where we would continue the discussion of these maps, receiving input on that, making refinements, deliberating. At either of those meetings, the map could be adopted by the commission. The 28th is an important date. We've kind of tried to back this process, recognizing that by April 17th, the city has to have this process completed per government code, right? So really what the next step is after the commission has actually adopted a map, the council takes an action to adopt an ordinance to amend the district map as adopted by the Independent Redistricting Commission. So the council has to take an action. It's procedural in nature. However, that action has to occur. So we are reserving March for that action to occur, given that the city council's agenda is very busy and we often need to find time. This is obviously incredibly important, but we don't want to, we just don't want to miss our deadline of April 27th. I'm sorry, April 17th. So I wanted to share this schedule to, now that we've had a few meetings, we're going to start really having to accelerate, discussion, deliberation. We're going to have information in front of us to get feedback on. And yeah, that's pretty much the end of my presentation. I just wanted to go over our next steps.
And that next meeting is Thursday, January 13th.
Oh, I apologize.
Not Monday, January 10th.
Correct. Monday is January 10th. So it's actually my birthday. Sorry, I got it wrong. But it's Thursday, January 13th. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we will correct. The information on the website is correct. Are there any questions folks have about next steps? Oh, I think Commissioner Baldwin, is your hand raised?
Yeah, I just raised it. Are we as commissioners, should we be thinking about submitting maps too, or is it just for the public for the next meeting?
I think Dr. Lapkoff or Gobele, would you be able to respond to that?
Yeah, the commissioners are quite welcome to submit maps.
Yes, public commissioners, and we will all be able to submit maps.
Okay, thanks.
I would, so follow-up question is, so in case we want to collaborate, we should, again, we have to keep that majority in mind, right? So that if we do that, then it's limited to that and there is no way in which it kind of goes to a majority. Correct?
Yeah, I think we have Liz on the line, but as was done in the training, just be very careful about serial meetings as well. So if you collaborate with a couple commissioners, but then one of those other commissioners collaborates with other commissioners that weren't part of the original group, then now you've created a serial meeting. So just be very cautious about that. I think if you're unsure, definitely reach out to the city attorney's office and you can review the Brown Act training that was done in the first meeting. But Liz, I don't know if you want to add anything.
No, I think you covered it. And if you have any questions about what you're, before you're going to meet, or feel free to reach out and we can talk about it.
Yeah, that's what I just wanted to make sure that if we do that as commissioners, it would be we create our suggestions and then send it to the demographer, so that this way at least we minimize the probability of the serial meetings.
Yeah, and just to be clear, like sending suggestions or questions to the demographers, it's not the same as meeting with a majority of the commission. So feel free to send as many questions as you want. City staff will help direct those to the demographers for responses before the January 13th meeting. So
thank you.
Of course, we all have some holiday and New Year's breaks, but in general, they will respond.
Do we have any other hands? So I don't see any other questions from commissioners. Do we have any comments from the public?
No, we do not.
Okay, then I will close this item. We'll move on to the next item. It is correspondence received through November 30, 2021. So commissioners or demographers, do you have any comments?
There is a question from Chair Marashi that she emailed for me to read on her behalf. So she writes, she says, what is your opinion on the redistricting suggestion letter by Mr. Tahir Joel Name included in the agenda packet at the end? How will it affect your redistricting decision? Personally, I was not able to grasp the suggestion completely, as it brings into discussion an election process that is not currently practiced. Would love to hear your thoughts on this. So I can address that question. The suggestion, and this is in the packet for everybody, and it's also online as part of the agenda packet, and it is the final page of the agenda packet, is a letter from the public asking about changing the model of voting in Santa Clara. And right now we are in districts. We have 6 districts, and the mayor is elected at large. And the suggestion is whether or not if this is a good model or to move to a model where residents can vote for more than one council member. That's outside the scope of redistricting. There was extensive history on this situation in Santa Clara that also ended up in a lawsuit. The judge had ordered, as a result of the lawsuit, that the city move to district-based elections, which is what we are doing today and what resulted in the first districting maps that we did in 2018. That was a result of the court order. Subsequently, the council also formally adopted the continuation of the 6 districts election method or model that was ordered by the court. So I think that it may be a valid discussion to have, but certainly outside of the scope of this commission's redistricting process. So if the member of the public feels that they want to propose this, they would need to take that back to the council and not necessarily to this commission.
Yeah, I think that clarifies. I just wanted to know what other commissioners think, but since it is out of scope, it's okay if we don't discuss. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. We move on to item number 7, the last item.
Sorry, on the item of correspondence, this is basically you all received additional correspondence from the public. So this is, I guess, the time if anybody wanted to have a discussion about any of those correspondence letters. Obviously, this was one of them. But otherwise, then yeah, you could move on if there wasn't any specific comments about the other correspondence.
I'll pause, yes, to poll people in case. Okay, I will take.
I don't have a question, but I have a request that it would be really great if if the city staff can share this correspondence within a day or two or few days to all the commissioners, so that everyone has time to think about it, more time to think about it. What do other commissioners think about this?
I think we can do that. I think maybe we could lump it and say maybe we'll send two batches a week. So, things that come in, we'll send on Wednesday, anything that came from Monday to Wednesday, and then send things on Friday for things that came after it was sent on Monday. After Wednesday. We could probably look at something like that. Rena?
City Clerk Rosam, it might be easier for us just in managing work to just send it when we receive it, if that's okay.
Sure.
Because
I was trying to make it easier for you guys.
Yeah, no, I know. Might be harder to try and create a schedule around it, but if people are interested, and of course we'll also include it in the packet, so everyone who's in the public can see the correspondence that's been received. So yes, we can forward it as we receive it to the commission.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Mirashi. Anything else? Last call for item number 6. Okay. Last item to be discussed is January 13th IRC meeting, a discussion if this meeting will be virtual or hybrid meeting. Staff, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, thank you. Commissioners, you had taken a vote at the last meeting to recommend a hybrid meeting unless, it proved too difficult from a logistics standpoint, or really the virus was, it was maybe not as great of a time as it had been when the original vote was taken to have a hybrid meeting. And the reason why we have a virtual meeting today is we have been tracking the sort of COVID situation with our emergency office director, our emergency operations director. And she has advised our council and then specifically advised me when I asked about this specific commission. She advised to stay away from in-person meetings because there had been an uptick related to kind of already the holidays, and it better to have a virtual meeting. So that being said, we have actually gone through the logistics of having a meeting. We talked about that internally with staff, and I did want to share a challenge that I think we did not bring up before about having hybrid meetings, which is when people right now meet in person, while we have a mask mandate, as you can see with me, right? I'm in a room with other people and I have a mask on. And that is actually challenging to have camera crews, because I think the ideal way to have a meeting when we're all, right now it looks great because we all have our little squares, but if we're in a meeting and there's actually a camera that is looking at us, for the public, the way that that meeting would be best presented is if the camera person directs the camera at the person who's speaking. And that is actually very difficult when you have a mask to know who is speaking. So it's actually just a little challenging, but also I think we didn't really convey to people that when we are meeting together, people would have to be wearing masks. And I wanted that to be part of your thought process. That said, staff does have a recommendation for the January 13th meeting, because it's coming right out of the holiday season and this situation is evolving, that we would ask for the January 13th meeting to be virtual, but for the January 29th meeting, or is it the 28th? I apologize for the date. It's the Saturday meeting at the end of January, that at the January 13th meeting, we would recommend that the commission reevaluate the situation and maybe provide a recommendation whether we should make that meeting hybrid. So it's really with the staff recommendation to keep this meeting virtual for the next meeting, which is January 13th. And then at that meeting for the commission to give direction to staff on whether it to be virtual or in hybrid, a virtual or hybrid, correct. So it's really seeking feedback from the commission if they have an alternate direction and would really like us to have a hybrid meeting for the next meeting. So it's more if there is alternate direction other than the staff recommendation to keep this meeting virtual for the 13th of January.
Does this need a motion and a vote, or?
I think we are asking for direction. So yeah, we would like a motion and a vote.
Okay, in that case, I will make the vote.
Sorry, can I just get other commissioners if they have any other comments before we come to a motion?
Yeah.
Any other commissioners, any thoughts that you want to share?
Oh.
With the Omicron outbreak that is happening currently and all the data points that Rina mentioned, I would probably vote for just having it virtual so that everyone is safe and even the city staff gets time after the holiday season to prepare for the meeting.
Okay, I'll make this then, since it's two separate things, I'm going to make two separate motions, one for January 13th and one for the 29th. I will start with the January 13th.
Sorry to interrupt you. Do we need to make a motion for 29th now, or we can make it?
No, I think maybe it's best for on the 13th to make the motion
Okay,
for the 29th, unless for some other reason.
Okay, so I move that the council that we recommend a virtual meeting for January 13th, 2022.
Thank you.
As our next public meeting.
Do I have a second on this item?
Yeah, I second this.
Thank you. Staff, can you please call the vote via roll call?
Thank you. Okay, the motion is for the January 13th meeting to be a virtual meeting. We'll take the vote now. Chair Marashi.
Yeah, I vote for it.
Commissioner Aker.
I vote yes.
Commissioner Morris.
Yes.
Commissioner McElhern.
I vote yes.
Commissioner Jensen.
Yes.
Vice Chair Agarwal.
Yes.
Commissioner Baldwin.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously.
So then at the next meeting, we will reevaluate and decide if we want to do a hybrid on the 29th. So no motions for anything on the 29th, the meeting of the 29th.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, with that, our meeting is now coming to an end. As a reminder, public outreach regarding redistricting and this commission, as well as information on all IRC meetings, has been noticed to the public in many venues, including a public notice was published in the Santa Clara Weekly on October 14th, 2021, listing all meeting dates. The city's website has a web page dedicated to the Independent Redistricting Commission, which outlines the redistricting process, lists all meeting dates, and also provides information on how to request translation services if needed. The website also has flyers translated into the following languages in addition to English: Chinese, Spanish, and Vietnamese. There is an email address dedicated for inquiries and comments on the redistricting process, which is redistricting@santaclaraca.gov. This email address will also be monitored during meetings for comments. Flyers have been provided to all public counters at City Hall, as well as were distributed at citywide events, the Halloween party at the Youth Activities Center on October 30, and the tree lighting ceremony on December 3rd. Meeting information has been sent out and will continue to be sent during this process via social media, that is by Facebook, Twitter, Nextdoor, and Instagram. And finally, meeting agendas are posted to the city's meeting page in advance of the meeting, as well as previous IRC meetings and presentations are available on the city's meeting page, www.santaclara.registrar.com. Commissioners, do I have a motion to adjourn this meeting to the next meeting on Thursday, January 13th at 6 p.m.?
So moved.
Seconded.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for this motion?
Yeah, I second the motion.
In case there are no objections to this motion, I will adjourn this meeting at 8:58 p.m.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.